It's my honor to introduce Tanya. I think if you live in New Mexico and if you do anything related to water, you probably either know her or you have come across her at some place or the other. But probably it's also true for some other neighboring states also. But Tanya she serves as a deputy state engineer, and she is also the New Mexico State Governor's senior water policy advisor for the state of New Mexico. I think she has tremendous experience on water policy related issues. That's something we always missed at New Mexico State University. Whenever we have to come up with any of the policy issues, there was literally almost never anyone. We have water engineers and everyone else. So she really has a tremendous expertise, which is definitely beneficial for the state day here. And in addition to that, she also has a lot of experience in the water management, and she has worked on issues like interstate water compacts, drought resilience, and also on the tribal water rights. And she is, as I am told, is really known for her collaborative work with all different types of stakeholders. Tanya, stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We'll try this new system. Great. Well, thank you all very much. My name is Tanya Trujillo, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here at this conference. So far, I've really enjoyed the first series of presentations, and without really planning things too carefully, I think I'm going to continue some of those same themes. But first, I just wanted to try to again welcome you to New Mexico. I'm a New Mexican from birth, and I've lived in a lot of different places as well, but always had a home base here in New Mexico, and now I'm back here full time and really enjoy being part of the governor's team to manage our water resources here in the state. Could I just get a show of hands? Is anybody else a water lawyer from New Mexico here? No, so that was kind of a trick, but who is here from Arizona? A couple folks. California. As usual, outnumbering us, but that's okay. And then New Mexico. Great. Well, I was a Californian for a couple of different stints, and I appreciate the complexity of the world out there in California and the breadth of issues that you have to deal with. I have been raised here in New Mexico, and I'm going to kind of amplify some of the themes that we heard earlier about really tooting our horn and explaining that although we're a small state with a small population, we really have been able to get a lot done. And we're still on that path, but it's great to be back home and be able to work on these issues. And for Arizona, I've always just thought of Arizona as kind of a sandwich situation for myself. And I think the issues in Arizona are very complex and interesting and challenging, and really appreciate the colleagues that I've worked with there in Arizona on water management issues from a lot of different perspectives. So I'm going to kick off, maybe just say, I also had a stint even, right now I'm currently working in state government. I had previously worked in state government. I also was an attorney in private practice, so I've been a litigator probably for the majority of my career. And I had a couple of stints working in the federal government, and really appreciated the opportunity to work very closely with technical experts, primarily at the USGS, and was tremendously humbled by the opportunity to support their work, and really just appreciate the role that all of the technical experts from different arenas add to this conversation. I think it's great to have the collaboration with the academic community as well, and really want to emphasize one of our priorities here in New Mexico is to think about the next generation. You know, who are the experts that are going to be working in our agencies, working in our companies around the state and around our country? Who is that next generation going to be? And it's critical to continue that path of their trajectories. So thank you for that effort. I want to start off by talking about a couple of the, themes that we heard this morning. One of them was about, how can we convince people that we need to take care of groundwater? How can we get people interested in this subject? How can we get their help? And how can we help them help themselves to dealing with some of these issues? Well, one of the first things that I did when I came back to New Mexico was work with some other folks on our team to develop the governor's 50-year water action plan. And this is a very small document. It's pretty high level, has a lot of pictures and compact information, but it's designed to be very accessible. So we had a technical basis for this, and Phil and others here in New Mexico, our experts, put together a report on climate change impacts in New Mexico over the next 50 years on our water resources. And so this is the technical basis for this more accessible version of our story. And it's also action-oriented. So our plan has 3 basic areas. One is concentrating on the elements of water conservation, not only for groundwater conservation, but surface water conservation and system-wide conservation, addressing issues in the agricultural sector, but also the domestic and municipal sectors. It has an emphasis on the need to look into the possibility of developing new water supplies, and characterizing our aquifers is the core of that element. And I'll give another shout out to Stacy Timmons and the experts at New Mexico Tech and the work that they're doing to really help us understand that resource and the ability to utilize it as a water source for our communities here in New Mexico. And then the third big prong of this water plan is a water quality element, and also including protection of our watersheds, the key supply for us. So we packaged this together, and I always am nervous about jinxing this when I say this, but this has been the lead story on our governor's website for a year. And it really emphasizes the important role that we do have here in New Mexico, the important role that water plays here in New Mexico. I also want to continue a theme that Phil commented on, is we have a very robust regional water planning process underway right now, and this came out yesterday. It's again, a really nice compilation of stories about some of the water needs and water successes here in New Mexico, and it's tied to our regional planning effort. Some of the stories in here are Stacy talking about, in a very accessible way, talking about the importance of groundwater characterizations and groundwater monitoring. Our former state engineer, who's going to be on the panel with me a little later, is featured here talking about his role in water management, and now his role as a retiree and a small farmer here in the Middle Valley. So really a good way to emphasize the importance of these water resource issues. I think I would also really compliment the role of NGOs, who sometimes don't get the credit that I think they deserve as far as bringing attention to our important issues, providing resources to help us collectively figure out some of the solutions, and to follow the theme that Jay mentioned earlier, the importance of journalism And I was gonna also mention the series that the New York Times did on groundwater management issues. You know, not everyone agreed with everything in every story, but it brought a lot of attention on a nationwide basis to the importance of being able to look at the groundwater component of our water supplies. It is really important to try to continue to figure out how to work with communities and how to build the support to address these complex challenges that we have. Here in New Mexico, a group of NGOs has recently started a campaign called Water Can't Wait, and we have big advertisements in our newspapers, online campaigns, op-eds being published, a thorough, really concentrated message geared towards the current legislative session that we have in the state going on up in Santa Fe. And I will make a plug, if you can get up to Santa Fe, please do. It's a beautiful place. Happy to give you restaurant recommendations or anything if you need. But you have to watch out for our legislators, because they're there for the long 60-day session that they're engaged in now. But the goal of that advocacy is hopefully to get some more funding to our programs to help us continue the trajectory that Ryan was describing and really help us continue some of these efforts. I titled the program "Who's the Boss of Who?" And that's a little bit of a trick title, because in the context of groundwater management, we don't really have a system of overlapping jurisdictions. I think there is a lot of concern and angst about federal overreach and the federal government taking over some of the states' roles as far as water management, but we haven't seen that happening. And I think there's probably a lot of reasons for why that hasn't occurred, but one of the reasons is simply it's really hard to figure out how that would be done. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the overlapping systems that we have from a local perspective, a state perspective, and then some of the issues that are occurring at the national level. But then it's going to morph into our panel discussion, where we'll hear some real-world examples of how different communities are dealing with the issue of sustainable groundwater and the practical management challenges and solutions that they've been able to come up with. So far, I think everything's been pretty complimentary. I think I'll start with maybe what we're seeing here right under our feet. Here in the city of Albuquerque, we have a situation where we have a mix of groundwater use and surface water use, and some of the surface water is imported from the Colorado River Basin. So we talked a little bit about the fact that supply is not necessarily going to be there at 100% in all years, and so we have to continue to have the mix of groundwater and surface water available for this community to rely on. But originally, this was primarily a community that relied on groundwater, but they started seeing diminished supplies. They were concerned about subsidence. The managers here in the city didn't know the extent of the groundwater and the aquifer that they were relying on. So they undertook concerted effort to plan for alternative supplies. And the city engaged in robust conservation activities, replacing turf, putting in water recycling efforts, really trying to reduce the reliance on the groundwater supplies that they had, while they were simultaneously working to develop this supplemental surface supply. called the San Juan Chama Project, again, importing water from the Colorado River Basin. It was really a robust effort at planning. The current iteration of the planning is called Water 2120. It is really amplifies the complicated mix of surface water and groundwater that they have to deal with. And then they're looking at more aquifer recharge projects as well. So I'm gonna come back to that, like what are communities doing now as a theme just at the very end. But aquifer recharge is one of the emerging issues here in New Mexico that we're trying to figure out how to do that better.